Hello and welcome to your astrology for the week ahead, 16th until the 22nd of November. Now, Venus squared Pluto this morning at 5:32 a.m. and is now moving into the arms of Jupiter, also through a square. As Venus moves through the end of Libra, she's bringing her ideals of balance, harmony, fairness, and equality to these understandings of what Pluto and Jupiter have been ripping apart in Capricorn, have been causing to tumble down, and the intense change that's been going on there. Venus is tapping us all on the shoulder and remembering the future isn't the future if we don't all work together on it, and we can't leave the vulnerable out like we have before. So there is a sense of connecting with those around us as well as worldwide to make sure that we understand the less shiny side of our relationship, where the shadows are at play. And when we're aware of those and bring a conscious light to those, then they don't have the power that they normally do, and they can't play out unconsciously. So I guess it is a day to definitely be pulling on the gloves and unclogging the pipes and having honest connections with anyone we're in a partnership with. This could be intimate, this could be business, this could be anyone that you're in close connection with. But the hope and the optimism that Jupiter offers, especially as we move closer and tighter to that square at 3:32 a.m. later today, gives us a sense that there is good to come out of all of this. So the harder we work into it, the harder we unclog those pipes, the more that can flow through for all of us later on. So my suggestion with this is don't cling to the old, and if you're obsessively thinking about something, then ask yourself why. What really is going on? Have a look underneath or read between the lines. Because when we cling to the old, that stuff's moving on out and we will move on out with it. So stay in yourself, stay in your integrity, make sure your value systems are aligned with whatever partnership you're within, and you'll be on solid ground then. Tomorrow, early in the morning here at 6:08 a.m. in Brisbane, we do have Mercury coming up to oppose Uranus. So this is the third in the cycle of this recent Mercury retrograde. So we do have Mercury in Scorpio kind of lifting the lid and wanting to stir the depths as well. And, I think this just adds even more to the energy that's around this week. So there's a sense that any insights or inspirations that we had 8th of October, 20th of October, it's time to really give them one more push, give them one more test, see whether or not this is something that we really want to change, or a friction point that's causing us to move and realign in a different direction. So I get a sense that, for example, around about that time, I saw a report, the World Bank is saying that because of the way that COVID has accelerated technologies replacing the labour force this year, that they're saying that within 5 years, 85 million jobs will be replaced by technology. Now, this could be a time to throw your hands in the air and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. Or it could be a time to pivot and spin and think, well, all this technology is going to need people to drive it and look after it and calibrate it. So perhaps I need to retrain and relearn about how I do it. And look, I know even us astrologers are not immune to this with so many different apps and things that are out there. So it's about being innovative and thinking outside of the box of ideas on how the future may look to you. And then on Thursday, we've got the sun coming up to sextile Saturn. So the sun is also in the last degrees of Scorpio. And if we look back at the square that happened on the 18th of October, we may have faced some constraints on your individuality or knocks to your sense of self or tests that stopped you from feeling whole. And look, as the sun is moving to conjunct Saturn, but in Aquarius in the end of January, it'll be completing a whole cycle that it does each year. So this final sextile gives us an opportunity to really integrate all the Saturnian tests and challenges we've faced this year. And with sextile, there's always the way of, you just put a little bit of elbow grease in to really see the rewards reaped. So just checking in, you know, were those constraints real? You know, were you letting your fears run riot at that time? Are you really as constrained as you feel, or does some more sober thinking need to be put in place to make sure that you are living your life the way you should be, being the individual that you deserve to be, and claiming your own power in that way? I think too, as Venus the next day, later that day, goes just within a couple of hours, also goes into square Saturn. It could give us this sense of feeling isolated or detached from those we love or those around us. And again, this is a sense of face the fears about yourself and how they play out in relationship, and whether or not either judgments on others are ones that you deserve, and whether or not your fears are realistic either. And if you're really worried, it's reaching out to someone you actually trust, who will give you a sober and practical view on you, and a bit of a wake-up call perhaps as well to the fears being just that monkey mind rattling away, thinking it's protecting you, but actually really holding you back. If, as you know, Venus then moves into Scorpio on Saturday, so this is at 11:27 p.m., we'll go down into the depths with her. And look, personally, I am really glad that she'll be out of Libra. You know, it will be a tough week to walk, I think, especially for those who are Venus ruled. So lots of Taurus, lots of Libra in your chart, or Venus strongly placed. There is a sense of, I don't know, being a bit battle scarred this week. And as Venus moves into Scorpio, it could be a time for you to be pulling back from the world, or not throwing as much into relationships as you have before, or just being around those you really love and that you really trust, and you can have those deep and meaningful conversations with. On the Water Trio podcast, if you haven't listened to it this week, last week's episode for the fortnight, we went into quite a deep dive on Venus and Scorpio and the loneliness of this placement and how it can feel. So I guess there is a real difference between being alone and feeling lonely. And if you do feel lonely, it's looking at why. What is it in your connections that are not aligning, not helping you feel fulfilled? Are there other connections that you can put more energy into, people who understand you better, or you just align with in a more deep way? This is definitely a good use of Venus in Scorpio, and just being willing to kind of get underneath what you love, what you value, and what you see beauty as, and knowing that this whole theme of this week, coming back to that, you know, that the shadow sides of relationships are just as much as the light side. They have just as much value, and they actually are probably the places where we learn the most about ourselves and others too, when we're willing to go into that place. So Venus in Scorpio, which will be there for the next 3 weeks, is definitely a time for us to be enjoying that too. And then on Sunday, early Sunday morning here, so this will be Saturday afternoon, Saturday night for much of the world, but it's wonderful that we'll all get Sunday with the sun moving into Sagittarius. So this is definitely a Sunday to be getting out and about as much as you can. I know much of the world's under lockdown, but if you can even just spend some time in sunlight, or just go on a bit of an adventure in somewhere in nature, Sun in Sag will definitely value you doing that. And I don't know, it just, Sagittarius implores us all to look up, to have this expansive view, to look at the stars and see beyond them, see beyond the small humdrum of life and the freedom and the adventure of just letting go and exploring. You know, this is a Jupiterian ruled sign, so it is looking to Jupiter in Capricorn. So it's, look, I don't think it's going to be as excitable and enthusiastic as Sagittarius season usually is, because we've got Jupiter still constrained, still cautious, still confident, yet waiting to see when the next shoe may drop. So I get a sense that we'll feel optimistic, but have this cautious sense of what is truly practical and able to be created. And I just feel like if we let ourselves be inspired by what we see around us, you know, in the heroes that are in our day-to-day lives, not the superheroes, not the Avengers, but the heroes that we see practically in our lives, then that is where we get more of a feeling of hope from and optimism from. And as well, this is a season of generosity as we lead up towards Christmas, and it's normally a big party season. So absolutely, this isn't going to be playing out in its normal way, but see how you can be generous. And if it's not with money, then it could be with time, or it could be with energy. Perhaps you could be volunteering at this time, or finding a friend who might need something, just a bit of a pick-me-up, or, you know, a phone call, seeing how you can bring this energy in. So wishing you all a wonderful week ahead. Enjoy the boundless enthusiasm that Sagittarius often brings, and I look forward to seeing you next week.